Clear.
And seashell traffic, helicopter jet ranger, Victor Sierra Bravo is departing down runway 29 northbound for Tzoonie.
In mid-September, we flew to Tzoonie Lake. It's nestled into the coastal mountains in the province of British Columbia in Canada. We chopped over the tetrahedron park, followed beside the Salmon Inlet, and crossed over Clohom Lake. The helicopter, so large, so orange beside us, was downsized to a dragonfly in comparison to the surrounding mountainscape.
Quite a spot, Peter.
To the pilot, we probably looked like little insects scoping out the territory for a new nest. The ideal campsite was chosen, just a short hike above the lake. Cool, clean running water, awesome view, and a few bugs.
I'm going to have a bite to eat now.
Tzoonie Base Camp. We're now logged in.
Pete and Bob chose this beauty for our day one hike. I love the way she so clearly defines herself by drawing a firm line in the sky. We climbed up from the campsite through the berry bushes, and the landscape started to scale down below us.
Yeah. I remember having that picture.
The scale of man to mountain is ever present as we climb out of the campsite's protection and head up to Vroubel Peak. The Tzoonie peaks are on our backsides as we scope a route to the summit. The climb is steep. We zigzag a switchback pattern among the big chunks of mountain boulders and stop frequently to rest, eat, and swat bugs.
The way I feel now, I want to come in here again.
Yeah, yeah. You can do it.
Tzoonie Lake.
Maybe, eh?
Yeah. And it has,
should be able to see Jimmy too.
yeah, and it has some beautiful alpine area up there. Higher than this valley here, but lots of ponds there.
This is a rockhound's playground, and for Peter, a stonemason, well, it's paradise. My camera couldn't keep its lens off of these rock formations. I felt like a kid full of giggles and amazement. Pete and Bob kept a steady, concentrated pace up to the summit. I just got lost wandering around this granite condo complex. Whoa! Turds! Not goat. Not mine. The mountain is an immense mass. We are insignificant little mortals on this landscape. We kick up a little surface dust and it settles. Who knows that we even stood here, unless a note is scratched to declare, "I was here," adding to the list of others who scrambled up before us. Pete and Bob capture the view from Vrubel's highest peak. I'm below them, sitting and staring and wondering why we feel compelled to climb. It is fun to climb to the top of a rock pile, throw your arms up in the victory salute, shout, "Yahoo!" Maybe brag a little, and the solitude is nice. Sitting and thinking feels good. I guess too that we're curious to see what's on the other side of the mountain. And once we glimpse the other side, then we can figure out where we are in relation to the surrounding landmarks. Who are we? Where are we? All the big questions get answered on mountaintops. There is, though, undeniably a sensation of euphoria. Is it just physical fatigue? Or is something more profound taking shape? Is it just a coastal mountain high, or are we satisfying a need to affirm our place in nature? Hard to say for sure. A person gets to think a lot on a climb. Now, though, we are concentrating on the descent. That base camp is far away, but it looks like a high alpine resort and spa to my tiring body, and I feel energized like a horse heading back to the stable. The terrain is terrifyingly steep. All thoughts of finesse or style vanish as I perfect the sit-down, turn-around, crawl on all fours technique. And there it is again, an undeniable attraction to the wild. It's a love affair. It's all rough and scary steep, and yet continuously crumbling or melting. It forgives the most brutal elements and responds with bonsai trees or fragile alpine flowers. And bugs. Lots and lots and lots of bugs. The après hike scene is delicious. A cool, refreshing soak in the mountain stream. A change into clean clothes. The most wonderful cup of tea in the world. It's a wilderness respite, a refuge from the ordinary. And probably the most cherished moments are spent with Pete, reminiscing about our lost partners who have left this mortal world to become part of the light in the night sky.
Sure is ready. Peter, are you going to have some herbal tea?
Pete, You've got one shoe on and one shoe off.
Like I did when I walked them out today. And then I had a cup of tea. Neil Bennett made me a cup of tea. Because I just collapsed. He said, well, this will refresh you. Drink this. I had a cup of tea, waited about 30 minutes, and we packed up the camp and packed out that night.
So we sort of had to think about packing up and leaving.
Pete and Bob have scanned this big mama and have discussed whether to climb the bench to the left or to tackle the ski slope up the middle. The Talus route wins. We climb up the ball-bearing path and decide that today is not a good day to tackle the chimney-shaped craggy peak. However, the trek across the top ledge of Serov is a welcome few moments on a horizontal plane. The route down is the same up path because every other descent option looks like a steep cliff. Just try to describe the impact of the mountain beauty, the sheer joy of being a small pixel in the big picture. Each time we sit and break to pull in the visuals, the jaw drops, and inadequate words tumble out of the mouth. Wow! Awesome! Magnifique! Fa la 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 la. My favorite descriptor is geo-erotica. But then that word might have just been invented. We point our cameras in every direction, trying to capture what we see and what we feel into still life images. More than words though, it just feels good to be outside. It feels good to scramble up big rock piles. There's a physical and mental shift inside of you, reaffirming your place in this creation, limited that we are compared to other habituated creatures and plants. Human hikers invest in adaptive hardware. Steel-shanked waterproof boots, carbon-tipped titanium poles, double-zip this and freeze-dried that, and of course, the quintessential anti-bug gear. These shy guys are born equipped for the territory with shaggy, water-repellent fur coats, ballerina agility, evil eyes, and horny protection. We saw goat scat and hoof prints on the snow patches where a memory of their path froze, and then disappeared where they expertly vaulted from snow to rock cliff. We spend the big bucks on mechanical devices that airlift us into the mountain paradise. This gorgeous flyer is born with flight equipment. He circled above us when we perched on a high ledge beside Seraph Peak. The peregrine falcon nests mostly on steep cliffs and traditionally return to specific ledges year after year. The fearless gray-crowned rosy finches breed near snowfields and rocky scree and build cup nests in high elevation cliffs. They confidently swoop above our heads as we stumble clumsily in the rubble. We saw so few birds. Maybe by September most had migrated. Small flocks of the pine siskins and dark-eyed juncos were still around, along with clouds of the other winged beasts, the bugs, who body bashed against the camera lens during the day and thankfully bedded down into the moss at sundown. Pete was the only one to sight goats when he was on a solo hike. And you can imagine the surprise and delight of this colorful gift. It seems almost accidental, even miraculous, that a seed could sprout roots in this rocky minefield. Above the tree line, every little flower or lichen is just such a surprise. Detailed perfection in alpine miniature. A strong sense of identification began to develop for me with the plant sisters. There we were, tenaciously hanging on by the fingertips, groping for a toehold in any available crevice. At one point, barely hanging on, my belly pressed hard against a rock wall, my face planted in the flora, I jokingly conversed. "I'm a wild clinging ivy. What are you?" Fear causes strange behavior. Early morning, on our last day, Pete soloed the westerly peaks of Frubel Mountain. Bob and I kept one eye on his climb while we packed up the camp. Pete has a reputation. He is a climbing legend. He has also been branded a minimalist. He studies maps and uses his eyes to scope the mountain terrain. Bob is more of a techno dude.
Oh, I see him.
Who likes to track our route with a GPS device.
Yeah, he's gonna go right across.
I openly confess to a complete dis-ease with camping, dependent on generous gear loans from friends, and I often complain bitterly to anyone who will listen about carrying weight or living without the duvet and bidet at home. Sniff. And needless to add, the bugs bug me bad.
Looking for Peter, he's up there somewhere.
Pete teaches me that the rugged, distant mountains are available. All you need is good boots, one outfit of clothing, a 35mm film camera, a small pack, a sleeping bag, and a warm fire. Bob packs a digital camera, an extra double-zip lightweight tent, and gas stove. Welcome comforts. Their combined climbing experience is reassuring. At one point, I was hanging on with a fingertip grip at about 6,000 feet above sea level. My legs dangled like dead weights. I felt like crying. Maybe I did cry. Bob calmly pointed out some hand and foot holds and allowed 4-point landings and belly crawls without laughing. To my face, anyway. Pete scouted ahead about 30 feet at a time, breaking down the mountain into a manageable path. Clearly, there is a strong metaphor that parallels climbing mountains and dealing with life's little struggles. If you are not born with wings, hire a heli. If your feet are flat with stubby toes instead of cloven hooves, strap on some crampons. If bugs annoy you, swat them. Nature immersion allows time for some serious reflections about life in general and its challenges in particular. About getting lost and finding a path. About being scared and finding strength. About stealing lessons by doing time with a couple of wise guys. There is something to be said about a heli hike experience into the coastal mountains. Something bigger than just climbing.